obviously you go to training, power plant or whatever it was called back then. What was the first time when you went to WCW that someone sat down with you and said, right, Erik, this is what's going to be happening. You're going to be facing these guys. You're going to be on TV on this date. When was like the first briefing session of what your career was going to be like?
Never,
Right.
never. No, no. I mean, serious. Never. This is what happened. Is I my mother had made a deal with my father that no child was to step foot in the ring without a college degree because my mother did not have her college degree. My mother is from Estonia. Russia had come to Estonia and said, "Hey, let us put some tanks and some, there, to ward off anyone that may want to come and get in war with you guys, and we'll be cool. And we'll just leave some of our equipment here." And they're like, okay. And they rolled it in and they turned it on and said, "Nope, you're ours now." And my mother's parents were well off people. They own like the telephone company, the post office, a leather refinery. They have a county named after them. Soro County is in Estonia. So that they took their jewelry and they snuck out on their getting out. They were actually in a milk truck. Now people think no, like a milk, no, like horse and carriage milk, right? And they stopped him at a police
Checkpoint. Yeah, yeah.
At that point. They heard someone cough or something in the thing, and the father came out, and they were so excited that they caught him. They did not check the truck. So three sisters and a brother and the mother got through on the milk truck. They bartered with a guy that had been hit in one of the wars, a hole in his ship. And he goes, "I'll take you as far as I can, but we're going to stay near the coast because I don't know how far the boat will go." And they made it to Germany. So in Germany, they were put in concentration camps, which were then deportation camps. They were 7 years over there. So my mom came over knowing 9 languages, one of the most beautiful women you've ever seen in your life. And she goes into high school and being a maid and doing these things, right? Because not everyone spoke perfect English and working her butt off. Then becomes a model and with Miss America Bandstand and all this other stuff in America. Well, my father, he played college football at Oklahoma. Then he got drafted to the Houston Oilers, but he didn't finish his college career at Oklahoma either because he went to go play pro football. And so then he was playing pro football, and then when he was wrestling for Vince McMahon Sr. at WWF, that's what it was called way back in the day. He was going through downtown New York and looked up at a billboard, saw this beautiful model, and it was my mom. Him and my mom dated in high school. So he looked up the advertising agency, got a hold of my mom, and that's how they started dating. But neither one of them had a college degree. And so now you think about it, they've got all these friends because back in the day, there's like 23 territories. So you've got the Ganyas, AWA, you've got the Grahams down there, the Sunshine Network in Florida, you got the Von Erichs in Texas, you got the people in Seattle, you got the Harts in Canada. So you've got all these federations, and my father knew all these people, and she goes, "Bill, out of all these people, who even has a college degree?" So what wrestlers were famous for were getting their kids into wrestling at 14, 15, 16 years old, either being a referee or whatever. Some of these guys had started wrestling at 16, 17 years old. And my mom's like, "I don't want that for our kids. If they break something or something doesn't work out, I need them to fall back." So we were mandated not to get in the ring. We did everything. We set up rings. We did the sound, the lights, the cameras, security, ticket sales, merch. We were 100% a part of pro wrestling at all times. We could not get in the ring. I did not know how guys called matches. I did not speak Carney. I didn't know anything when it came to that. My dad was so old school. Bad guys, good guys. They didn't ride together. They didn't room together. They didn't travel together.
Can I ask you? Sorry to interrupt. With your
Go, go.
dad, Bill, is Did he ever? I hate to use the words, the insider terms, but I can't think of anywhere else to say it. Did he smarten you up as a kid to wrestling, or were you always sort of kayfabe, basically?
My mom smartened me up when I was about 15, and she said, "Do not tell your father I told
Oh,
you."
really?
Because our thing was, as kids, my dad said, anyone, you go out or you go anywhere, and someone says, "Is wrestling real?" Before they get the L on it, I want you to pummel their brains out. So literally he goes, and I don't give a shit if it's your best friend. Beat them like they stole your money, and no one will ever ask you. So we were running under the fact that it was real. And I remember times where I would have some friends that I would bring to a show, and I would go to the security, but I'd set them up. And afterwards, we may come down and go to the babyface locker. And I remember Terry Taylor sitting there one day, just his head bandaged up. And I had like 3 or 4 of my friends. There was a guy named Brian Ketchum, one of my lifetime best friends, and da da da. And they're just so excited. They're meeting all the wrestlers and all this other stuff. And my dad said, "You guys, let me explain something to you. You want to know whether this is real or fake?" And of course, no one asked. So my dad just sit there and boom, rips off Terry's bandage and just gaps his head, and his blood starts rushing it. And my dad goes, "Does that look fake? Does that look? This man took a beating. Blah blah. Go bandage your shit up." That's how brutal my dad was, right? And now later on, it was brutal because it was either Buzz Sawyer or someone got lit up by Skandar Akbar with fire. Or maybe it was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I can't remember. Literally, they took their fingers and twisted his face. And then my dad he took a brick and put sandpaper and sanded his face. Sanded it, like the skin would get caught on the sandpaper because it's oily. And then you'd have to turn it over and get more sand, just to rub as much of your skin off your face so that people knew he got burnt. I mean, it was just heavily crazy. So when my mom told me, she goes, "You don't tell your father shit, but I'm going to let you know so you're not freaking out all the time." Because for us back in the back, man, it was still it was intense down there. We saw some crazy matches. My dad had the toughest territory, and I'm not dogging anyone else's territory, but people to this day even say, if you took all the territories and put them together, Cowboy Bill Watts' territory could beat up all 22 other territories at once. Because, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Rick Steiner, Buzz Sawyer, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was like a legend. Steve Dr. Death Williams was a legend in the streets fighting.
Hercules.
Dirty Dick Slater was known for knocking out a few NFLers. Like my dad had one rule. He goes, "You guys can go out and party and do all you want. If you ever get beat up in a fight," and he goes, "I don't care whether it's versus one person or 50 people, you're fired." Like he wanted his guys to be revered and feared, right? So with all that being said, so here I am, I'm playing college ball. I've got an agent. It looks like I'm going to either go to Cincinnati Bengals or Tampa Bay in the low rounds. Listen, bro, I ain't here to make up bullshit. I'm not saying I'm a first rounder. The guy before me, two guys before me was Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden, I don't know if you ever heard of John Gruden and Jay Gruden, the NFL coaches.
No.
Jay Gruden was Washington Redskins. His brother John Gruden is the guy that got fired from the Las Vegas Raiders 2 or 3 years ago, and he had a 10-year, $100 million contract. Okay, so Jay was the quarterback before me. He went to the Arena Bowl and set all these records. The quarterback right before me was a guy named Browning Nagel, and he went quarterback second round to New York Jets. So I was sitting in a stable of people. So by the time I got to play, I didn't play 4 years like a lot of guys that get drafted are,